The following is a presentation of the Mat Talk Podcast Network.
You are now logged into WarUp on the WPIAL, featuring your hosts Greg Warnock and Jeff Upson. PA Power Wrestling. Pennsylvania is wrestling.
Welcome into WarUp on the WPIAL. Greg Warnock alongside Jeff Upson. And Jeff, we just got through the Section Team Championships from this past week and decided to kick the show off a little bit later because we also want to get the full preview of the team tournament coming up. It all kicks off on Monday, so we wanted to make sure we got you full analysis and predictions before we get that tournament started. I can't believe it is here. Team portion, it's super exciting, and we saw a lot of great action from the section championships.
I mean, you said it, Greg. We have a lot of good action to go over here from the section results, but also Allegheny County escaped a rock, Brookfield duels, so we have some other things to go over. And, of course, looking ahead to next week and what's to come, before you know it, we'll be previewing Hershey and the PIAA team tournament. So, as you mentioned, a lot of good action. We have a lot to go over.
Yeah, and really, this is the last full week of wrestling during the week. From then on out, it's all weekend action. Coming up first off with the WPIAL Team Championships, and then into state, and then right into individuals. So always a lot of fun. You look at the section results in AAA and Section 1, always a barn burner when these teams all get together. Kiski defeated Latrobe, Hempfield over Norwin. Kiski over Latrobe 37-24, and Hempfield over Norwin 50-22. The first, third, and fifth, Hempfield knocks off Kiski 34-31 to win the Section 1 title. Latrobe beats Norwin 45-29 for third, and Franklin Regional claims that last spot, a 43-24 win over Greensburg-Salem.
And we got to see the Hempfield-Kiski match, 34-31, as you mentioned. A lot of good wrestling there from Hempfield. I was impressed with the way they were able to get some bonus points. Briar Priest was able to get a major. Ethan Bergnet was able to get a fall. And then, of course, Nolan Dare, I thought, he came out like a ball of fire at 38, pinned to Logan Reynolds in 26 seconds. So you're talking about some serious damage there to come back from. Obviously Kiski responded. Jack Bloomer and Nick Delp, all they do is get pins. I believe that was Jack Bloomer's 100th pin of his career. Even Jared Cercio got a fall at 182, but really this was all Hempfield early on.
Yeah, and Braden Roskowski defeats Justin Kramer as well, and that's a potential toss-up match. You look down through the results, I'm not sure how much more different Kiski could have approached it. You could have got Stone Joseph in the lineup, and if he is in a lineup, you don't have to give the forfeit to Isaiah Vance, but Vance would still likely win that match over Joseph. So I'm not sure how much more Kiski could do differently.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at the way that the matches panned out, and I really don't see a whole lot more that Kiski would have been able to do. I mean, Dom Giordano got a nice win over Lucas Capusta at 126, so that's a match you obviously want. Ethan Connor was able to get a major for Kiski at 132, and Sammy Starr beat Trevor Verclear in 3-2, so those are all good wins for Kiski area, and as you mentioned, Roskowski at 95. So without Stone Joseph in the lineup, it's really difficult to make up any real room here against Hempfield. Yeah,
unless he's able to come back. The only other way I could see it, too, is maybe if you bump more Lackey up and you bump that whole lineup up to get away from Linsenbigler. But the problem is you put someone else in that spot, you're giving up 6 instead of 3. Then can Morlacki beat for clearing? Question mark right there. And then which guy are you bumping out? I mean, you end up bumping Roskowski into Ferretti. Can he beat Ferretti? And, Curcio is probably going to lose to Kramer. So I'm not sure how much more you could really do, honestly, other than just going at it head-to-head again.
Yeah, like when we talk about Waynesburg and Canon-Mac, that's essentially what Canon-Mac did against Waynesburg, bumping up their entire half of their second lineup. But you look at the way the match panned out, I don't see how it's going to change much the next time around, because it's very likely that we'll see each other again.
Yeah, we'll talk about that in just a little bit. Section 2, Connellsville beat Peters Township 59-13. TJ over Mount Lebanon 43-22. Finals, Thomas Jefferson wins the Section 2 title 38-34 over Connellsville. Mount Lebanon for third over Peters Township 46-33. And for fifth, West Mifflin gets in a 38-25 win over Bethel Park.
Yeah, good showing there for TJ. You know, they're a team that quietly put together a nice little run there in the section tournament. Brian Finnerty had a nice win over Casper Hinckley at 170, so I thought that was a swing match for them. Yeah, it was overall, I was impressed with the way that Thomas Jefferson was able to come out and beat a pretty tough Connellsville team.
Yeah, that's really a swing match that could end up deciding the whole match. I know Thomas Jefferson ended up forfeiting the last couple of weights, but that could have really decided things.
Yeah, you look at 195 too. Tristan Alava from TJ was able to beat Seth Coons in tiebreaker. So again, another match that probably could have went either way. So good showing for TJ, but they're gonna have their hands full.
Section 3, Seneca Valley beat Hampton 50-18. North Allegheny over Butler 57-15. The championship match, Seneca Valley over North Allegheny 40-24. Third place Butler over Hampton 42-30, and for fifth, Pine Richland over Fox Chapel 51-24.
And the news here, I think, is Seneca Valley putting North Allegheny away pretty easily. I was surprised by that. I thought North Allegheny was going to be able to put a little bit more of a fight up, but Seneca Valley got the matchups that they wanted, I believe. And 106, Tyler Chappell beat Nick Gorman 2-1. That's a huge win for him. An undersized freshman who was able to come out and beat Nick Gorman, who is state ranked, has had a good season thus far. So, probably a little bit disappointing for Nick Gorman, but Dylan Chappell beat Dylan Coy 7-1, so a good win for him. And AHR was back in the lineup at 132. Chan Shear was also able to get a win over Max Stedderford 6-4. So things kind of went Seneca Valley's way. We knew they kind of would up throughout the middle of that lineup, but I thought North Allegheny was going to fight, maybe get a little bit closer.
In Section 4, Cannon McMillan defeated Trinity 54-24. Waynesburg over South Fayette 71-12. Your first place match, Waynesburg over Cannon McMillan, and that was by criteria. 10th criteria, most near fall points. Waynesburg was tied at 30 with Canamac, so they pull out a 31-30 win. South Fayette over Trinity 40-33, and Chartiers Valley over West Allegheny 52-26 for fifth. The story here, though, is it surprising that Canamac kept it so close, or what do we expect in a potential future matchup with these two?
Yeah, I mean, that was definitely a little bit close. Waynesburg and Canamac come in ranked 3 and 5 in the state, so clearly two teams that are very highly touted, not only in the WPIAL but also in the state. So you look at some of the matchups that happened, and it started at 13 where Nate Jones was able to beat Brandon Dammy 6-5. That's a rematch. Jones has beat him twice now, very close matches. But then Costa Moore comes and gets a pin over Hunter Shriver at 120. That was huge. Rocco Welsh is able to defeat Jacob Gardner 6-1. He was looking for potentially a major there, 2 more points and potentially, or 3 more points potentially could have got him the major. Cole Hammett and Jimmy Baxter was a close match that was a little bit more back and forth. And then Wyatt Henson gets a pin over Ramus. I thought that was something that you look at where they needed to get the points. Waynesburg got them.
Yeah, when you look at it, Jones and Damline as a toss-up match, but Jones has had his number. Look all the way back at 106, though. Mac Church beating Jacob Haupt 3-0. A little bit surprised that he didn't, get maybe. I feel like Haupt is closing the gap a little bit on Church. They've wrestled 3 or 4 times now.
I think it's only the second time they wrestled, or third time they wrestled.
Third time, I
believe. Haupt is a good wrestler. There's no doubt about it. And the way that you're going to wrestle in a dual meet is much more different than the way you're going to wrestle possibly in an individual tournament. Not saying Haupt's job was to go out there and not give up a major, but Church is going to have his hands full with a lot of these guys in the WPIAL that are going to maybe shut down. So I'm not surprised by the fact that it was only a decision. I was surprised at some of the matches, such as 195. Noah Tustin was able to pin Tyler Rohaley. That was a huge swing match for them because Tyler Rohaley, if he wins by fall. He has like 16 falls on the season, and Noah Tustin is a guy who's just now coming back into action. So that was huge for Waynesburg to get that fall at 95. Another one that I thought was a swing match was 145 with Gabe Stafford versus Colton Stone King, and that was a win for Stafford 11-5, but that was kind of back and forth a little bit too. Tanner O'Haley gets a fall over Nate Stevenson at 152 pounds. That's a match that I thought was probably more of a little bit of a toss-up because that was a close decision the last time they wrestled in Tricata.
It was a 1-0 win for O'Haley, and it was really on 2 stalling calls. So that one, could go either way. So to me, if you were looking for Waynesburg on how you can improve, Stone King, Stevenson, maybe you can get Church to start to go on a tear, maybe get a major from against Halp again. Like you said, very tough to do. Look on the other side, though, for Can and Mac. Damai could win that match against Jones. Again, they're both very, even when they wrestled in counties, it was a very close match. You'll also look at the way the rest of the lineup shaked out, too, for Can and McMillan. Can you get Ramos back? That's going to be a big question. If you get him back, your lineup looks a lot different. They ended up bumping Ninehouse and bumping Miller. And then the other question, though, is where do you weigh Ninehouse in? Because he's...
Right. If you put him at 82, you're obviously not going to get him up to 220. So I think you got to commit to that early. You got to commit to how you're going to do that because Furman went up to 82. They forfeited at 70 to Augustine. So... that's a game time decision for Jeff Havelka to say where are we going to put him in at. I don't know if I'm Waynesburg or if I'm Kane and Mac, I probably want to have a similar lineup here against Waynesburg because they were pretty darn close to knocking off even without GMR Ramos, who I don't believe is going to be back in the lineup for the Big Mac. So they're kind of operating a man down, if you will. So. I don't know. If I'm Ken and Mac, I'm saying, okay, we've tested them. Now we can kind of make adjustments and see where we can come out on top. So, but the same goes for Waynesburg. I mean, they've got a peek at some of the things that they can do. Eli Mackel at 160. That's a pretty much a toss-up match there with Joseph. He lost 3-1 to him. So
if you can get Augustine on Furman.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, sure. And that flip is obviously pretty important. But yeah, it's a chess match, man. It's a battle, and every point matters, man. Every single point matters. You're looking at the bonus points here; they're just absolutely so critical in a match like this. So I definitely hope we see it again.
Over to AA, Burgestown defeated Best Center 58-26. McGuffey over South Park 58-16. In the championship match, it was Burgestown over McGuffey 41-34. Third place, Best Center over South Park, 67-16, and for Cherry for fifth over West Green, 43-33.
What'd you think of that Burgestown McGuffey match? It was 41-34, but I think there were so many falls for Burgestown. Shane Kemper got a fall, Joey Senapal got a fall, Shane Ignfritz got a fall.
I don't know much more McGuffey could do, to be honest. I mean, they got the wins they needed to get. Seth Bergdolt getting a win over DJ Slovic, that one possibly a toss-up match.
Rocco Ferrero at 145 beat Ryan Green 4-2.
Yeah, another close one that, McGuffey got the better end of that. I think Kemper's going to get that fall every time. So is Ilgen Fritz, so is Senapal. I'm not sure where McGuffey makes up the points, to be honest with you, when you look at this, unless you try to bump the lineup around a little bit, because the falls that came for Burgestown were all kids that should have got them in those matchups and in those scenarios, and McGuffey won the close ones.
Yeah, they did. They did definitely won the close ones. So I like Burgestown. I like the way they're wrestling, especially right now.
I do as well, and we'll talk about the AA bracket in a little bit, but this could be a matchup we'll see again as well between those two. Section 2, Laurel beat Keystone Oaks 60-18. Quaker Valley over Freedom 51-23. Championship match, Quaker Valley over Laurel 39-38. Freedom over Keystone Oaks 48-30, and Elwood City over Hopewell 39-27.
I was kind of surprised that Laurel was able to keep it that close with Quaker Valley. Were you at all, or is that just...
Yeah, they've been a solid team this year. Definitely an up-and-coming team with some guys. But, yeah, I mean, when you look at some of the studs that Quaker Valley throws into their lineup with, Connor Redinger and, Patrick Cutchember, Donovan Cutchember, you would think they would pull away from this one. But Laurel did a nice job. And, they have some good kids that those guys that aren't going to leap and bound and maybe not make news in Hershey, but their guys are solid kids.
Yeah, and each team gave up a forfeit. Connor Redinger received a forfeit at 52, and Mitch Miles received a forfeit at 285. So definitely a closer match than I thought was expected. Colin Bartley beat Logan Ritchie by a major 11-3 at 106. That was one I was a little surprised about, but it was good to see Quaker Valley kind of bounce into the WPIAL championships as a section winner. And
that was without their new 106 pounder.
Yeah, right, exactly. So yeah,
who's now ineligible, correct?
Correct. Yeah, he's ineligible per the WPIAL. So definitely a blow to them.
Will they still be hearing that in the state level, or?
I don't know. I don't have news on that, but I know he is ineligible for the time being, for sure.
And that was Hunter Robeson, who was ended up being ineligible. So we'll see if anything changes this week, but likely Quaker Valley without him. The other news, really quick, Freedom didn't perform as well, and I think it's just showing the signs of the years where Freedom has lost some of their big names. They still have a couple really great kids, obviously Trent Schulteis, Kenny Dushek, but just not quite the same team and able to deliver.
Yeah, unfortunately, Freedom just they are fighting that graduation bug. They lost a lot, and they're definitely a team that's kind of looking to rebuild. But yeah, you're right. Freedom was a team in the beginning of the year. We kind of was wondering how they were going to be, but definitely a down year for them.
Good win for Schulteis over Patrick Kutchember in that match, a 7-4 winner. Section 3, Burrell over Southmoreland, 62-14. Elizabeth Forward over Highlands, 57-23. Your championship, Burrell over Elizabeth Forward, 61-15. For third, it was Southmoreland over Highlands, 40-36. And Mount Pleasant over Summit Academy, 52-21 for fifth.
So Burrell keeps on rolling.
They're another section title.
Despite a kind of a down weekend at the Brookville Ultimate Duels, they were able to come away with a nice commanding win over Elizabeth Ford, who's they're not a bad team, right? We saw some of their guys competing throughout the year and thinking, okay, this is going to be they're going to make it maybe a little interesting. So, but Burrell, man, they looked really good. They got falls from Ian Oswalt as well as AJ Corrado. Nick Salerno at 120 had a nice win over Dylan Bruce, beat him 10-2. So that's a good win here. Do you notice who was back in the lineup at 132?
Yeah, Trent Velacek into the lineup, a guy who hasn't wrestled all season. Right?
Yeah, all season. So that's obviously a huge boost to their lineup, especially at a time right now when they're gearing up for their 140th straight WPIAL tournament.
Well, and that's because he went into that 32 slot where Ian Oswald's been wrestling all year. So just the fact that those two guys are in the same weight class really makes it tough for him to get in the lineup.
Yeah, right. And we'll talk a little bit more about the Ultimate Duels, but he did get in at 126. But yeah, I mean, that's a huge boost to them in the lineup.
As we get set to preview the team tournament coming up, one thing that a lot of the wrestlers will be looking for is that edge on how they're going to come up, especially when we're talking about how close some of these teams are. And we're really excited to introduce a sponsor before we talk about the team tournament, and that's the Tactical Mind. It's the science to know how to train physically and technically to become a great wrestler. Sports psychology is the next frontier where athletes can gain an edge, especially in wrestling. The majority of professional athletes and Olympians are utilizing sports psychology professionals now as they recognize the importance of training your mind. And how many times, Jeff, you look at wrestlers and it's a mindset. They have to have the right mindset in order to see success. And just because one kid's ranked ahead of them or has done this move to them, all of a sudden it's in their mind. So
I know. For me personally, that was a huge struggle to coming up through high school, is having that mental edge and getting psyched out, defeating yourself before you even step into the circle, right? And that's a huge thing.
Yeah, this guy's ranked number 3, I'm number 5, and that's all of a sudden in your mind that you can't beat him. Nick Fuller is actually a good friend of Jeff's and a guy who was at the Surge and he's fantastic to work with. He's actually a cognitive performance coach. He's worked with U.S. soldiers in the Army and now works with high school and college athletes. So whether you struggle with something similar, whether it's confidence, motivation, refocusing after making a critical error, or gaining composure going into a big match, Nick is here to help you develop a champion's mindset. He's based in Lewisburg, but he does a lot of sessions with athletes over Skype and FaceTime. So just because he's in Lewisburg doesn't mean you still can't utilize Nick and everything that he can bring to the table. If you're interested at all in learning some more information, he actually has a discount that you guys can use. Use code PAPOWER, that's PAPOWER, on his website, which is tacticalmindllc.com, and you can get 15% off any package you choose. So again, that's the tacticalmindllc.com. And you can learn to compete not just physically, but also mentally and emotionally.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know any successful wrestler that doesn't utilize some type of mental training here. It's a must-have, especially in wrestling. It's a sport that requires you to be that mentally strong and mentally tough. So not only do I know Nick as a successful person, but I know he's able to get wrestlers and athletes of all ages and abilities to where they want to be. So definitely check out the tacticalmindllc.com.
And when you look at the team tournament, the AAA seeds that were released, Waynesburg comes in as the number 1 seed of the tournament. Not too surprising, so they've been ranked number 1 all season by us here at PA Power. The number 2 seed, Seneca Valley, Cannon McMillan, number 3, and that's thanks to their wins over Hempfield and Kiski back in December. So Hempfield comes in at number 4, Kiski at number 5, so we'll see a Section 1 rematch very likely in the quarterfinals. North Allegheny comes in at number 6, which all along we've talked about the top 5 teams, and North Allegheny being that number 6, that next team in. So the committee nails it right on the head here. Thomas Jefferson, a Section 2 champion, comes in at number 7, and right behind them, their runner-up Connellsville at number 8. Latrobe comes in at 9, Butler at 10. Thoughts on these seeds?
I mean, not too, they're very predictable, I think. You got to put Waynesburg 1. I think the team that won Section 4 was going to get that number 1 seed. Seneca Valley, though, they definitely deserve that number 2 slot, I think.
You would put them over Cannon McMillan? I think it's probably the only one you could argue. Maybe Cannon McMillan might be 2 because of how close they battled Waynesburg.
Yeah.
And they didn't get a chance to wrestle in the quad meet.
Sure, no, they didn't, but I mean,
Canumac.
they both went 2-0 at the quad, and and Seneca Valley was able to put away a pretty solid North Allegheny team. I think you got to give them the nod, and it's obvious that you can switch that 2 and 3, and really, you're not looking at much of a difference other than the fact that Seneca Valley's going to have to wrestle North Allegheny again. So, I like the seeds. I think the committee definitely nailed it. It's a shame we're going to have to see Hempfield and Kiski likely wrestle again. Are
you surprised they didn't try to separate those by maybe going North Allegheny 5, Kiski 6, just to get them on opposite ends?
Maybe. I would have preferred that, but definitely it's probably, it's going to be tough to...
If you're looking at the seeds, I think this is right on with Hempfield 4, Kiski 5.
Absolutely.
You can argue Seneca Valley, Canumac 2, 3, depending on preference, and if Framos is in the lineup.
Yeah.
But North Allegheny is definitely the 6. But again, just for matchup purposes, because it's not double elimination, you could have put NA on 5 and Kiski in 6, and I don't think there have been much argument.
Man, I wish they did double elimination. I really do, man. I just... Yeah, that's a whole other thing. But I definitely think that the committee got it right in terms of the seeds. They're looking to get their best teams to Hershey. Yep. That's been said from the onset, and this is a bracket that I think allows that to happen here. Waynesburg, I think they're going to make the semifinals. Not saying easily, but Connellsville and Latrobe, I think they're going to defeat one of them. The one I'm looking at the most is that possible Hempfield and Waynesburg match, right? Because man, Hempfield's, they may have not done so well at the quad meet, but they definitely looked good against Kiski. So
back it up just a little bit with the seeds. Thomas Jefferson, number 7, but they are a Section 2 champion. Are you surprised they didn't get a little bit higher because they were a Section champ?
No, I mean, I think the committee looks at the overall body of work, and TJ, while they were a Section champ, it's not the strongest of sections. That's obvious, and I don't think. Yeah, I don't think it's any disrespect to them. I just think that's the way it is, right? I think you're just going to have teams that are a little bit better despite not winning their section just because of how deep that section is. So, obviously TJ's probably not happy about that, but hey, they get to potentially battle Seneca Valley to see where they stand.
When you look at the quarterfinals coming up and then going into the semis, do you look at it as potential all chalk going in? Waynesburg, Hempfield, Canumac, Seneca Valley?
Yeah, I mean, I do. If history would repeat itself, Hempfield would beat Kiski area. I don't know where they're going to, as we just mentioned before, I don't know where they're going to make up any of those points. I think Waynesburg makes it to the semifinals as well. Canumac and North Allegheny, should North Allegheny beat Mount Lebanon, I think that could be a good match. I think they match up well. I think depending on where the flip goes, I think they could keep it interesting. But Seneca Valley, I think they're going to obviously make the semis as well. So we could see that Seneca Valley versus Canumac semi that we want to see.
Who do you got coming out?
Ooh, putting me on the spot here, Greg. I'm going to put Waynesburg and Canumac in the finals.
I'd agree with that.
I don't know. I just got a feeling. Seneca Valley, though, man, I feel pretty bad, actually. But I haven't gotten a shirt from them.
Me either.
I was told I was going to get a Seneca Valley shirt. I have a shirt from all the other folks that I predict to be in the semifinals. But no, I think Seneca Valley is going to.
Is that what it is? That's what gets you the prediction, right?
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
I'm a sucker for giveaways. I don't know. I think that Seneca Valley Canumac match could come down to the wire. And I don't know. The way that Canumac was able to really keep it close with Waynesburg, I think their stars are going to do well, but I think it's those middle tier guys that are really going to set them apart. Haupt, you got Blake Joseph, Evan Miller. They're so tough up top that I think, despite not having GMR Ramos, I think they're going to find a way to win. I think if they can weather the storm, which is 132, 138, 145, 152, I think they're okay.
Well, if we're doing it by shirt, then I guess Canumac and Kiski are my finals picks because those are the only two I have. But no, I mean, I do agree. I think it's going to be all chalk going in the semifinals, and I do like Waynesburg over Hempfield. I think they just are strong throughout the lineup, and I agree with you on the Canumac side. I think that where Seneca Valley is strong, Cannon McMillan can at least put a good wrestler into it. And then from there, they're going to pick up wins and bonus where Seneca Valley is not strong. So I think Canumac is definitely going to be in the finals with Waynesburg, and we're going to see that rematch. So who's 1, 2, and 3 then?
Oh, jeez. You're going to put me on there. I think, I've had Waynesburg number 1 from like September, so I'm not going to deviate from that now. So I'm going to go Waynesburg, Canumac, and Seneca Valley.
I'm going to go Canumac.
I know you
are
because you love Canumac.
You know what I mean? We went through the line, we went through the matchup, and I think there's still maneuvers they can do and things they can change. And then if by some chance they get Ramos back, all the better. But I think even without Ramos, they showed they can win that match. And I think the matches they won, they're going to win again. And there's a couple that they can kind of get their way. So I like Cannon McMillan over Waynesburg. So them being 1, 2, and then I would from there take Seneca Valley as the number 3. They showed they can beat Hempfield back in December. I know that was a different time, but they won that match convincingly.
They did.
I don't see Hempfield making up enough points.
Yeah, I mean Seneca Valley's been very impressive. So I agree with you there. And I don't. That Waynesburg Canumac match, man, you flip a coin. You wrestle 10 times, they're going to split 5. They're just, and there's so many little things that one thing changes, right? That one bonus point is going to mean so much. So I wouldn't be surprised if it's Canumac. I think both these teams are deserving of seeing how they do in Hershey.
The matches on Monday at 6 o'clock all 4 matches are Cannon McMillan, Peters Township, Pine Richland, Norwin at West Mifflin, and then at 7:15, Chartiers Valley and Hampton and Trinity and Franklin Regional. The 4 sites for the quarterfinals: Waynesburg, Hempfield, Cannon McMillan, and Seneca Valley. All matches at 6 and 7:15. The finals and semifinals are on Saturday. 4 o'clock at Norwin are the semifinals. 6 o'clock at Norwin are the first and third place matches happening simultaneously. So that's what's going on in AAA. Now let's slide over to AA. On the other side, no surprise as to who comes in as the number 1 seed. Burrell comes in as the number 1. The question is, can anyone knock them off? We've been talking about it all season long. Number 2 is going to come in at Burgestown. No surprise there either. I think they've been tracking as a number 2 team all season, and the win over McGuffey showed it. a little bit of a surprise here coming in as McGuffey gets the number 3 seed ahead of Quaker Valley, who ends up as the number 4 and a section champion. Now, you look at the matchups, though, and it's going to be fun because Quaker Valley is going to end up wrestling Laurel potentially in the quarterfinals. Laurel comes in as the 5. That was a close match. And then Burgestown and McGuffey have the potential wrestling in the semis for a rematch there where it was super close. So you look at the rematch potential, and it's awesome. But maybe a little surprised that Quaker Valley didn't get the 3.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not that surprised just based on the way McGuffey was able to battle Burgestown, right? I mean, I think everyone coming into this said Burgestown's probably the clear number 2, but McGuffey they hung with them, right? They were right there with them. So, and Quaker Valley, not that they struggled against Laurel. I mean, they got the win. I like the idea of having Quaker Valley wrestle Laurel again, and then the winner has a shot at Burrell. And I like seeing potential Burgestown and McGuffey again. So, where you can split hairs all throughout, but I think at the end of the day they got it right.
Yeah, and you look at from there with the rest of the seeds: Elizabeth Forward 6, Freedom 7, Best Center 8. Best Center battle McGuffey tough early on in the season, so maybe not getting the best draw feeding into Burrell, but you got to give Freedom its props because they've done so well in the team tournament in the past. Now they don't have some guys, but they did upset Burgestown last year. This place they were the 7, Burgestown was the 2, and Freedom got the win. So can they do it again? I don't think so. They just don't have enough. You can't give up forfeits to Burgestown, and they're going to end up giving up probably 3 or 4. So unless they can close those gaps, I don't see it happening.
Yeah, no, I can't say I do either. I just think this is I'm not saying it's a clear 1 and 2, but I think we're going to see a Burrell-Burgestown match.
I do as well. So you look at the seeds and our predictions. I think it goes chalk. I think it goes 1, 2, 3, 4 to go into the semifinals.
I do too. I think Quaker Valley gets another win over Laurel, and I think McGuffey's able to outlast Elizabeth Ford, and Burgestown comes out and does not get upset by Freedom. So I think you're right. It goes chalk, and I think that the top 2 teams are going to get in, and I think it's going to finish 1, 2, 3 the way it is.
Yeah, I would agree with you. I think McGuffey is that third-place team, especially after seeing them against Burgestown. The question is, can Burgestown beat Burrell?
With Trent Vlauchek back in the lineup, Burrell, man, they do this every year. They go up to the Ultimate Duels, they take some losses, and you're like, oh, I don't know. But they're going against Brookville, Chestnut Ridge, and Reynolds, so, I mean, no easy teams there. So, and then they find a way to just turn it on. Yes, Burrell's going to win because that's what they do. They win at the WPIAL Championships. I can't see them losing.
Yeah, I mean, I really want to see, just to say, like, hey, the streak's finally over. We have a story to tell, but I don't see it ending.
I can't.
I don't see Burrell losing in this scenario. I like Burgestown's team. I like the depth they have, and they have some guys who are going to make some noise as far as, in a WPIAL. But to me, Burgestown doesn't have they have a lot of really good wrestlers, but they don't have a few of those rock stars that like Burrell does.
Yeah.
And I think that's where Burrell's going to end up being. That's going to be the difference for them to win that match. You look at the times for the 4 quarterfinal matchups and the first-round matchups, Burrell, Quaker Valley, McGuffey, and Burgestown are the hosts. And semifinals are going to be at noon at Chartiers Houston, and then finals and third-place matches at 2 o'clock at Chartiers Houston. So make sure you get out to Chartiers Houston if you want to see if Burrell can continue their streak and win another WPIAL championship. And joining us now to chat a little bit about the seeds and the brackets and how it all came about. As always, we do every year. Always great to hear from him. Phil Mary, kind enough to join us on the phone. Phil, thanks for joining us.
Hey, no problem, guys. How you doing?
We're doing wonderful. It's always great to chat with you. We always enjoy these once-a-year conversations with you.
You know what? As do I. I say honestly, I look forward to it. Try to, make some notes and, give you guys a little bit of insight of what goes on behind those closed doors.
Well, let's talk a little bit about the AAA bracket. Waynesburg comes in as the number 1 seed, Seneca Valley 2, Cannon McMillan 3, and Hempfield 4. First off, how much excitement was there about the Waynesburg-Cannon Mac match from Wednesday night?
Well, I'll tell you what, a lot of excitement. I got to catch up. I was unfortunately at McGuffey where there was some great wrestling going on also. But knowing a lot of people, the phone was blowing up Wednesday night with all the results and what happened, and it's kind of crazy, I tell you.
Yeah, I mean, they go down to the 10th criteria, most first fall points, and that's, they really had to dig down deep to figure out the winner there.
Well, the good thing is too. You know what? You got Frank there and Bobby Stevenson, both committee members, and the guy that was on the book is a guy that works Pirate. It's Frank's brother Jerry. And you know what? And it's probably a good thing he was on the book because he had everything pretty well in order. You know, because you get down to Jay, you're really going, tearing that score sheet apart. and from what I understand, he crafted a heck of a job too. He was the official.
Once you guys got the result, was it pretty much assumed like, hey, the winner of that section was going to be the number 1 seed?
Yeah, we kind of did. You know what? Not to take anything away from the year Seneca Valley's had, because they had 2 impressive wins early, along with Cannon McMillan in that quad. So we as committee members are very thankful for the Hempfield, Kiski, Cannon Mac, and Seneca Valley guys that kind of get in there and mix it up early, and it takes a lot of it out of our hands. So that's a good thing.
Yeah, they really make it easy on you, that's for sure. It's interesting, though, because we talked to Chris Eater and the other coaches, and they mentioned how much different it is, right, those matches in December as opposed to when they wrestle in the team tournament, just because you don't have the weight allowance yet, so the lineups aren't really set, but it does give you a good barometer. And for you guys, hey, you could say, look, here's the results, and it is what it is. You guys, you made it up for us.
You know what? I've been on a committee for practically 20 years, and head-to-head just speaks for itself. So it kind of helps us out in individuals and in the team tournament.
Well, Jeff and I definitely thought you did a great job in seeding the AAA bracket, but I will say that one thing we kind of just discussed is, although we think Hempfield's number 4 and Kiski's number 5, was there any discussion on, maybe putting North Allegheny 5 and Kiski 6 just to separate those 2 teams?
You know what? There's always that discussion, but you know what? And we have this argument every year. We can't separate just because they're section foes. Can't do it. You know what? And it came right up in the meeting. Maybe Kiski 6, and we're like, no, that's not fair to the 3rd seed. If you put Kiski in there against Canamac, or you got to do it, the way it's supposed to be done. If you feel he's number 5, they're number 5. The only thing we've ever done in individuals in the team tournament is separated you in that bracket of 16. Other than that, everybody's fair game.
I think another conversation that always comes up, Thomas Jefferson being a section champion. We agree with your, putting them at where they need to be at 7. But was there any talk about, because they're a section champion, they should go a little bit higher?
Oh, to be honest, we do look at section champs, but they had a loss to Norwin, so that hurt them right out of the gate, and that kind of separated. And then not that we put a lot of stock in team stuff, but the Allegheny County tournament, where I think North Allegheny was 2nd in the county and TJ finished maybe 6th or 7th, and we don't put a lot of stock in that, but you still got to put a little bit when things are pretty even. So yeah, there was and TJ had a good run last year, and they might make a good run in this tournament. But the committee felt North Allegheny deserved the nod over TJ.
Yeah, and I tend to agree with you there on where they fit in, and as you mentioned, that loss to Norwin, as you mentioned, kind of hurt them a little bit. It just shows you that depth of that Section 1. One thing that Greg and I talked about, and I know I've had this conversation with some folks from other districts in Pennsylvania, is there or would there ever be any thought to doing wrestlebacks from the quarterfinals as opposed to the semifinals? I know, for example, in District 3, they do them from earlier on. Is there ever any question that you would want to do the wrestlebacks from the quarterfinals?
Wow, I'll tell you what, Jeff, that's a great question. I'll be honest with you, it hasn't come up. But it's going to come up now that you mentioned it, because you just gave me a great idea. And just, and again, I don't know if we'd entertain that, again, because I have no authority at all when it comes to that. But it's something that we could definitely talk about.
Yeah, you just look at the teams, and I think this year in particular, there's not that one team that's like, hey, they're going to be the number one. This team's clearly going to be number two, and likely we have 3 or 4 that could be the third. It seems like they're between 1 and 6. You got some talented teams that on any given week could really, surprise you and do well.
Yeah, and to be honest, I haven't seen much of NA. But I know the Kiskies and the Hempfields and the other 3 teams, and, there's no question. It wouldn't surprise me. North Allegheny would surprise me a little bit, but it wouldn't surprise me if any of the top 5 seeds win it.
Right.
It really wouldn't. Knowing how they, the job those guys do at Kiski, and, they're going to be ready, even though they're coming off a tough loss last week, and you know how tough those kids are. They're just because it's going to make him come back a little stronger next week.
Right, absolutely it does. And, I think logistically, obviously, it's tough to figure out how to do it from the quarterfinals. But I know from personal experience talking with some other district folks that, it definitely does help in terms of, hey, we're going to get our best 4 or 3 or 2 teams there. And even having, like District 11 does a true second match for their district duels because they only send the 2. So just a thought, Phil. I know you are the authority despite what you say. So just a thought. I want to put it in your ear.
You know what, but hey, and if you don't mind, I'm going to ask you to stay in my ear about it.
Okay, I will.
I appreciate that.
You look on the other side in Double-A, and I think there's no argument about that top seed with Burrell. They've continued their streak and are looking to do so. You look at the rest of the seeds, though. I thought you guys got it right with Burgestown being number 2. They've had a heck of a year, but you look from there on. McGuffey gets the 3, the nod over Quaker Valley. What was that decision, and was there a lot of discussion there?
Yeah, there was a lot of discussion. And I had first-hand knowledge of the McGuffey-Burgestown match. That was a match. If Waynesburg and Canumac was the match of the year, the Burgestown-McGuffey match was pretty darn good. It was 36-34 going into the last match. Kid from McGuffey's up 5-0. Just a great overall match. And not to take anything away from Quaker Valley because I really haven't seen much of them. I know they wrestle a pretty good schedule, but a lot of guys thought if Burgestown was an easy 2, then McGuffey's right there. That's just how I felt in AAA. With if the winner of Canumac and Waynesburg is number 1, the other one should be number 2.
Right.
Because that's a 30-30 match. But fortunately, we didn't have to fight with Canumac beating those other 2. So I kind of, we kind of voiced the same with the McGuffey-Burgestown because everybody thought Burgestown was 2. And in my case, if Burgestown's 2, then McGuffey's got to be 3 because that was in Barnburn.
Right.
Now if Burgestown beats McGuffey by 20 points, you got to look at Quaker for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I think you kind of you hit the nail on the head there. I mean, just about how close that Burgestown-McGuffey match was. As you mentioned, all the talk was obviously about Waynesburg-Canumac, but as you mentioned, that was a heck of a match between those 2 teams. So if you're going to put Burgestown as the clear number 2, obviously McGuffey makes sense at the number 3 position. And, it kind of can sort itself out if they potentially meet again in the semifinals. And then Quaker Valley, they had a tough match with Laurel, right? That was a 1-point match.
Oh, my.
So
39-38.
Right,
yeah.
right. So, I mean, you look at it and you say, okay, I think this gives us a chance to see where Quaker Valley is going to really stand, and especially if they make it to the semifinals against a tough Burrell. So, it's
look, go ahead, Bob.
It's interesting just to think about this year, especially with Burrell. It seems like maybe this is the year that they get. Some people are saying this may be the year they get knocked off, but you can't root or count out Burrell. That's for sure.
Well, you know what? I'll be honest. I talked to some Double-A coaches over the last week or 2 just to get a feel on, Elizabeth Ford. Talk to them a little bit. Talk to Burgestown a little bit. Talk to Mikey Heinel of Quaker Valley. And they all kind of sense that. But I don't think anybody wants to come out and say it.
Yeah.
So until somebody beats that beast, Burrell's still the king of the mountain. That's for sure.
Yeah, it should be interesting to see what team might be able to do it. But really, I think after you look at probably the top 5 in AA, Burrell, Burgestown, McGuffey, Quaker Valley, Laurel, there's probably a next step down when you look at the next set of teams, right? Elizabeth, Ford, Freedom, and Best Center.
Yeah, but again, you just in any time anymore, the flip means a lot, because for I think it was last week where Best Center took McGuffey down to the final match. It was from what I heard, it was a heck of a match, and I think that came down to a potential slam, so I think you never know. I wouldn't count out Elizabeth Ford or Best Center, well, obviously Best Center had a tough road to hoe with Burrow, I thought, but so you just never know.
Yeah, and Freedom, last year were in the same position, and they upset Burgestown and got to the final. So I know they're down some guys this year, but they do have the talent.
And you know what? Those Freedom guys always show up.
Yeah.
They show up. They've been at Chartiers the last 3 or 4 years for the top 4, and those are tough, gritty kids.
I know we've talked about it before, Phil, but you guys are continuing to separate the AA and AAA with the 2 different sites. Was there any conversation, again, just about maybe putting that together all in one, or do you guys continue to like that setup? You know what?
Again, no. We did not have any discussion, but I just saw, I don't know who's out there on Twitter, but somebody said the same thing on Twitter. Why not go 12, 2, 4, and 6? At a neutral site, go to, I don't know where you would go, but, I'm sure that something like that will be a discussion. So if you guys like that idea, again, stay in my ear. We'll be glad to bring it up at a meeting, because when I saw it on Twitter, I thought it was a good idea.
Yeah.
And I think, Jeff, correct me if I'm wrong, one of you two brought that up last year, correct?
Yeah, I believe last year is when we kind of discussed possibly having, because we didn't want to miss either one. But yeah, we'll keep in your ear, Phil.
Yes, please do. Because I think that would be a pretty good event.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Hey, we appreciate you taking some time out, Phil, to join us. It's always great chatting with you, and we look forward to seeing how the team tournament shakes out.
Hey, it's my pleasure. Appreciate what you guys do for the sport.
Thanks, Phil.
All right, guys. Have a good night.
Yep, you too.
Thanks a lot to Phil Murray for joining us on the show, and we talked a little bit about the mindset that these wrestlers are going to need to have as they head into the postseason. And again, just want to remind everybody that we're really excited to have a sponsor join us here on the show, the Tactical Mind. It's the science known to train physically and technically to become a great wrestler. So if you haven't already done it, as you've been listening to the show, make sure you check out Nick Fuller. He's a cognitive performance coach, and he works with soldiers. He's worked with the U.S. Army, and now he's working with high school and college athletes. He helps them, whether you struggle with confidence, motivation, refocusing after making an error, gaining composure, going into a big match. Nick can help you develop a champion's mindset. And we both have talked about just how much rankings, and especially now in a team tournament, I need to get a pin for my team, or I'm going to need a major decision, or I can't get pinned. You got to have that right mindset. So check out the Tactical Mind. He can definitely help you out. Yeah,
the best wrestlers out there are utilizing this type of stuff. So Nick Fuller, he was at the Surge, so many of you who were at the Surge probably saw him or talked to him. But definitely go ahead and visit tacticalmindllc.com and get linked up there with Nick, and use the promo code PAPOWER for 15% off.
That's right. He is based in Lewisburg, but he will do sessions over Skype and FaceTime as well. So he can get you ready, not just physically, but mentally and emotionally as well. So it's thetacticalmindllc.com, and use the code PAPOWER to get 15% off. Wanted to recap for you. We've talked a lot about the team portion, but we haven't had the opportunity to look back on the past weekend's wrestling action, where we had some tournaments going on, and the Allegheny County tournament was the big one here around the WPIAL, where it came down tight on a team race, a half a point difference. Pine Richland defeated North Allegheny 223 to 222 and a half. But you look at the individual results, and what weight classes really stood out to you?
You know, I mean, we kind of talked about how North Allegheny was going to run away with it, and we were wrong. But Nick Gorman from North Allegheny was not in the lineup at 106 pounds. Anthony Ferrero dominates that weight class. 120 was interesting. Joey Fisher beat Dylan Coy in a tight match, 5-4. Dylan Coy, just hasn't had that really breakout performance yet where he's knocked off a really big name. Joey Fisher continues to grind out wins. Ryan Michaels was able to beat Dylan Evans again. 132, Drake Burford from Highlands was able to get a nice win over Keelan Laffey. He was up 2-0 and he pinned him in the first period. No surprise that Sammy Hilligus was able to get his third Allegheny County championship.
Yeah, and you look at, you mentioned Michaels over Evans, and that was a quarterfinal matchup just because of the way the seeds were. Evans ended up coming all the way back for third.
Yeah,
in dominating fashion.
Yeah, for sure. Jackson Gray from Mount Lebanon, again, a guy who's just been battling, and he beat Nate Luquez from Pine Ridge 5-4, so that's a win over a state qualifier. Cole Spencer and Connor Redinger. This was kind of the highlight match for me, and Cole Spencer was able to get a turn to defeat Connor Redinger in the finals at 152 pounds, 3-0. Both guys have state medals to their names. Max Stout from Mount Lebanon at 170 was able to beat Tyler Kokak, and probably the deepest weight class there because you had Eli Brinsky as well, who took third, and he defeated Brian Finnerty from TJ. So a very deep weight class there at 170. Justin Hart turned it on against Patrick Kutchamber from Quaker Valley, beating him by major 10-2. So that was a good win. And of course, Luke Stout and Luke Montgomery wrestled for the fourth time, and again, Luke Stout's able to win that match. So overall, very solid performance from these guys in Allegheny.
And also, we talked a little bit about Escape the Rock, but not a lot of WPIAL teams in Escape the Rock. So we only gave a little bit of focus to what is such a big tournament, but Connellsville was out there. So how'd they do? Yeah,
Connellsville did well. I was actually very impressed with the way Connellsville wrestled. Chad Ozias, he finished fifth in a very, very deep 106-pound bracket. He beat Carson Wagner from Northampton, who's a very good freshman. So Chad really impressed me there at 106 pounds. And Mason Prinky was seventh, also a kind of a deep weight class there. You had a couple state medalists and state qualifiers, so Prinky was able to finish seventh. The story of the WPIAL here in the tournament was 145 pounds. That's Jared Kessler. He ended up defeating a returning state medalist and a guy who's going to pit, Antonio Petroselli. He beat him by fall. That was a kind of a crazy match. Kessler ends up taking sixth place, and Petroselli finishes seventh. They don't wrestle again, but that was a huge win for Kessler, who's looking pretty good at 145, man. I mean, he was only at 138 for the Powerade tournament. He may be staying at 45.
We'll see how it ends up. I mean, that was a deep weight class, too, at 145. You look at the guys in the finals, just for example.
Yeah.
Hanlovic and Condomiti. So for him
huge, for him to do well there. And he battled Condomiti. I mean, he was in there with them, battling it out. Casper Hinckley from Connellsville took eighth at 160, another deep weight class there. I think Connellsville had a good showing overall. I'm very curious to see where Kessler decides to go, because I think wherever he goes, he's going to be a threat.
The other tournament we mentioned, the Brookville Ultimate Duels, where Burrell gets its sense for the team side. And you look at Burrell's goals, they want to continue to be the WPIAL champions. They want to keep that streak going. But over the last few years, and rightfully so, their message has been they want to bring a state medal home every single year. Yeah. So they have bigger goals, loftier goals than just a WPIAL. I think the conversation's never changed over the last few years. It's always, we don't want to be that team that ends the streak, we want a top four finish.
Yeah.
So they have the two goals aligned, and they've been successful in keeping the streak alive, but they haven't been able to bring that medal home of late. So this was a good test, and it is every year for them to see where they're at, but they didn't fare well.
Yeah, I mean, it always is a good test for them. And, I think Coach Josh Shields is a guy who definitely relishes the opportunity to take on some high-powered teams such as Brookville, Chestnut Ridge, and Reynolds. They do go 0-3, but they battled Brookville, lost 39-27. There's a few matches there that could have went either way. Caden Walter of Brookville at 113 beat Sean Zemansky 5-4, so that was a tight match. Nick Salerno got pinned at 120 pounds in under a minute by Braden Kunzelman. I was surprised by that. And then Trent Vlauchek in his return loses 4-0 to Owen Reinsel. So some matches that probably could have went either way. Noah Linderman got a nice win at 160 pounds, 10-9. So again, should these two meet again, I think it could go again either way. But it just shows you how deep that state is when we look at where the matchups fell. Chestnut Ridge, on the other hand, they beat them 46-19. Chestnut Ridge is there. I guess I didn't give them as much credit as I should have in the beginning of the year, but man, they really turned it on. Nathan Holderbaum got a 7-3 win over Nick Salerno. Kai Burkett beat Sean Zemansky by major. These guys are just really solid throughout. There's no really weak holes there. And then, of course, there's Reynolds, right? Reynolds does what Reynolds does, and they're three-time state champions for a reason. They beat Burrell 43-21. So definitely some work to do in terms of where they want to go, Burrell, that is, in order to bring that state medal home.
When you look at those three teams they wrestled, as far as the state rankings in AA, where do those three teams fall? Reynolds, Brookville, Chestnut Ridge, and in relation to Burrell?
Yeah, they're all top 10. I mean, they're all top 10 teams. Reynolds is the top-ranked team in the state. So, obviously they're going to shift around a little bit. Brookville will probably move up a little bit. But they're all top 5, top 10 teams. So you're looking at some of the best teams in the state outside of District 11, where Notre Dame Green Pond is, and Saucon Valley, and of course Southern Columbia. So yeah, that was a good test.
Yeah, and so we'll see where Burrell can make some changes. And first and foremost, so they got a WPIAL championship they're going to have to worry about. And you got teams like Burgestown and McGuffey and Quaker Valley who want to see if they can knock them off. So always great to see Burrell, though, as far as mixing it up on the state level. Want to thank Phil Mary for joining us on the show today. Make sure you check us out next week. We'll be recapping the WPIAL Team Championships for you. I guess maybe a little over a week, but we'll have a full recap for you, and then we'll get you set for Hershey, get you ready for the team portion of that, and then next thing you know, we're at individuals.
Oh, man. Can't wait for it. It's a great time of the year. This is the best time of the year, both college and high school wrestling. It's got a lot going on here.
And we'll see how it all shakes out. So I want to thank you folks for listening at home, and just make sure you stick with us on PA Power Wrestling as we give you updates throughout the entire week on the WPIAL Team Tournament. From a broadcast partner, Jeff Upson, I'm Greg Warnock. Thanks for listening in to WarUp on the WPIAL.